Steve Spagnuolo, one of the best defensive minds in football. Steve, if there was a Hall of Fame for assistant coaches, you would say Spags probably is a Hall of Famer.
He's done a great job with all of the players, but he also understands, if you look at what he's done over his whole career, he's coached a lot of different areas, so he understands how to do certain things. Also on his coaching staff, he has specialists who are former defensive coordinators, but also know how to coach certain particular positions. Sometimes you've had coaches who are a jack of all trades and a master of none. And some people can see that as a good thing. You want a guy who can sprinkle in and know everything. You want specialists. You want guys who know exactly what their specific positions do inside and out, and don't always want to coach other positions because they're focused on that. So now you have a bunch of guys, the linebacker coach, the D-line coach, and the secondary coach. They're all saying, this is what we want to run in the back end. This is the kind of stunts we want to run in the front end. This is the kind of coverage we prefer. This is the kind of alignment that we prefer in the middle of the field. So I really love the way Spags has done that and kept his nucleus of guys together over the years.
Yeah, I mean, one jumps out at me is Brendan Daly coaches the linebackers for Kansas City. He just coached in his 11th straight AFC Championship game. He was under Bill Belichick for that whole run, working with, I believe, the D-line, actually, in New England. And then he leaves New England, goes to Kansas City. I mean, just working under Belichick, now working under Spags. All he knows is success. But you're right. All of these guys know what they want to do, and Spags is a great communicator to all of them because there are a lot of moving pieces. And like I mentioned, we talked about Vic Fangio's defense. Very different than what Spagnuolo does. He shows you a lot of different looks. Pressure comes from a different side. Something else comes from a different angle. What I wanted to mention first with this, Steve, is how does Philadelphia stay on the field to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field? Both of these teams have more 10-play drives this season, including the playoffs, than any two teams in football. They just stay on the field, Kansas City and Philadelphia. I feel like in this game, if you have a 3 and out, when you getting the ball back? And the other part about it is possessions are going to be limited because neither one of these teams turn the ball over. Yeah. So you got to make the most of your possession. So how does Philadelphia try to stay on the field against Spags? Obviously, running the football is a big part of it. And this team Philadelphia is good on third down. That's something Kansas City has struggled with from time to time.
Yes, they have.
But you look at what ended up happening, right? They go 5 for 9 on third down against Buffalo as an offense and stay on the field. And that was an issue going into that game. Now, can Philly do that to Spags in this defense by staying on the field and run the ball well on first and second down? So what I think ends up happening is when they run the football, Philadelphia has to be looking at the 2 drives to start the second half for Buffalo. We were both there, Steve. What happened on the first possession for Buffalo in the second half? 11 runs in a 12-play drive by James Cook and company. The next drive happens, it's 7 of 9 runs, and obviously that drive ends on the controversial 4th down call on the 4th and 1 that Buffalo doesn't convert. The point I want to make is, do you think against this Chiefs defense, Philadelphia saw them in the second half have some issues and had to regroup against the run?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And what did we see? And I want your take on this. James Cook had 13 carries for 85 yards, averaging 6.5, but 13 carries. Guess what? Saquon Barkley had a career high this year, averaging 21.6 carries a game. Saquon is going to keep running the football. I think that was one of the things that happened with Buffalo is they got away from the run a little bit. I keep running James Cook, like 6.5 a carry. I mean,
a few times they started to outsmart themselves by getting away from James Cook and started implementing runs with Josh Allen. And I believe that threw off the tempo at times. But one of the things that was apparent, that the Buffalo Bills understood that running the football with whomever would give them a better chance of keeping this game close. And in the second half and near the end of the first half, that actually was the right recipe. They just had some bad calls with the wrong player having a football in their hands because at times they became predictable. This is where, against the Baltimore Ravens, the Josh Allen runs were hugely successful. Against the Kansas City Chiefs, the Josh Allen runs were hugely anticipated, which allowed them to be really closer than they wanted to. But when they gave the ball to James Cook, it was really a great thing. And you can feel in the stadium the sense of anxiety start build up because you start to see James Cook, he was getting active. It wasn't the 21-yard run, it was the 6-yard run that you go, if that shoelace tackle was not given, he could have gone for another 15 or 16 yards.
I totally agree. And so I want you to say this from an offensive perspective because you know the way things are designed way better than I do. Some people think if you just run the ball, hey, they're running the ball. You can run the ball a lot of different ways, and you can run the ball consistently and be unpredictable at the same time. Can you kind of describe for everybody how that's the case? You just have to have multiple running concepts that like Philly can do with the way their offensive line is worked.
Well, the different kind of concepts is you have the traditional fullback, running back, and you have the wham. You have the A, B, C, D gap. A is, you have the center A, B, and it goes out that way. And you have the edge. So you have the toss, but you also have a lot of different motions. And the motions and the shifts is really to get the defense to flow. And by the defense flowing, that allows the running back to see the whole field, but he's seeing it where are the gaps. And the gaps are wherever he does not see the back end of a lineman or the front end of a shoulder pad of the defender. And if he doesn't see that, that's where he puts his foot in the ground, and they call it going against the grain. And that's where all of a sudden when the defenders are running towards, and then all of a sudden that's where they have a combo block, and then the combo between the lineman on the linebacker, and then the outside edge combo blocker falls off, and he absorbs the pursuing linebacker, which allowed Saquon Barkley to get out on that edge against the Commanders. One guy has to make the tackle, missed it, and Saquon goes to the house. That's the different type of runs that you will see where it's zone read, fast flow, and then that allows the running back to pick his best possible run that he sees with his eyes, not based on predicting where he should run with the play design. It's not the design, it is the blocking scheme and the vision of the running back.
We've talked about Jalen Hurts in another video. He checks to runs really well, Steve. Like, he audibles at the line really well to some of these other runs from what he's seeing from the defense to help Saquon in this run game. And then you look at this offensive line that has an all-pro right tackle, an all-pro left tackle, a Pro Bowl guard, and a Pro Bowl center. Like, they are as talented as you can be up front.
Yeah, that's 5 men of trouble. That's what that sounds like.
Do you see Spags against that group having to bring pressure to create? Oh, yeah. Because we know they blitz a lot, right? They blitz fifth most in the NFL, almost 35.
Well, they have to. They have to, because outside of Chris Jones, there is a little bit of lack of consistency, right? Chris Jones is led by that team, and that's why he gets the ability to really say where he wants to line up based off where he believes he has the best opportunity to penetrate or impact or disrupt that play based off the analytics and the numbers. And that shows also Chris Jones, his high IQ or FBI, football intelligence, of knowing on this play, this down and distance, on this second down with this formation, they're most likely going to do this. And you got to give a man credit when he's in the books like that, to be able to also literally take the information that the coordinator's telling him, and then also take the information he knows of watching film and that data collection of going, hey, this is where I line up on first down, 1st and 10. I'm lining up over the B gap. 2nd and 7, I'm going to line up over there on the D gap or the E gap where the tackle is, and then I'm going to line up against the guard, and then I'm going back to the center. Man, that kind of knowledge and ability to pick your poison or pick your punk is the best way to kind of feel like where you can have the most success.
Dude, I'm stealing pick your punk because that's what ends up happening. I've talked to Joe Cullen, their defensive line coach, Steve. I've talked to Spags about this over the years. He'll come back after that first series, second series, come back. They have these conversations on the sideline. All right, Stone Cold, where are you looking? Like, what do you like? What matchups do you like? I want to go back over here. I want to go back over here. I like this. It's a dialogue on the sideline.
Hey, hold on. Who's Stone Cold?
Stone Cold Jones. Chris Jones.
Okay. I'll just make it sure.
Stone Cold Chris Jones. So they had this dialogue on the sideline, but what makes it even more of an advantage for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I've done a lot of their games the last couple of weeks and talking to guys on their staff, when Chris has the ability to make these moves up and down the defensive line, what else do you need, Steve? You need the other members of your defense to be able to move and adjust with it as well. And so when I talk to guys on that defensive staff, and you know this, they're like, almost every guy that we start knows the whole defense. That's not the case everywhere. You a lot of times start players that they're athletes. They can play. Yeah. But do they have the full grasp of what everybody else is doing on the field, on their side of the ball?
I mean, that takes time. That takes time. I mean, it took me a while to be able to understand and know walking into an offense that I need to know X, Z, F, and Y, what their responsibilities are, especially if it's a new offense. If you've been in one offense for a long time or defense and then you go to another one, to be able to know the assignments and the alignments of other positions, man, that's very unique and that's very telling on what the responsibility and the expectations are when you play in this type of defense.
100%. The way they move Chris Jones around and can put him on the outside, can put him on the inside, what do they usually do when they do that? He has to be double teamed. And if you slide him to the outside of one, you got to double team him. And if you shift towards him, what does Spags do on the other side?
He brings pressure. And bringing that pressure frees up a rusher or the pressure guy comes scot-free. Not nicked or anything. I mean, it's like, whoa, here he comes. Mm-hmm. And you can see that. And against the Buffalo Bills, those were the plays that were the difference maker. But I can tell you the one thing that I'm really concerned about for this game.
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Now, with the new year beginning, we're here to remind you that life is more and maybe more complex than just resolutions that fade in February. It's about picking up the pen, becoming the author of your own life. BetterHelp is completely online, so it's therapy that is both convenient and affordable, and serving more than 5 million people worldwide. So, write your story with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/89 and you'll get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/89.
But I can tell you the one thing that I'm really concerned about for this game. I really believe if the Kansas City Chiefs keep it close, I have to go with the Kansas City Chiefs because the quarterback, the offensive coordinator, the head coach, the players, they've been here so many times, they don't panic. They already have their plays prepared and ready for the just in case. I'm not necessarily sure that the Philadelphia Eagles, thus this year, have been put in a position to know, let me have those 1 to 4 go-to plays that we need to win the game because we're down by 1 and we're on the 5 or we're in the fringe or we have this 2-point conversion that we need to go to. That is the difference between winning and losing a game. And what do I mean by that? When I was watching the game, the one thing that I really felt that I was extremely comfortable with is knowing that Patrick Mahomes and company have plays for touchdowns, not plays for field goals. And I think that's the biggest difference. We're going to go down and score a touchdown, and we're getting the 2-point conversion versus most teams, they're asking themselves, do we go for it? What are we going to do? These guys with the Kansas City Chiefs, they've been in this position the whole time, all year long, 1 possession, 1 score. The Philadelphia Eagles have not been in this this position because they've been running the table. The way they were able to run through the Commanders, the way they have been playing and beating teams over and over again. I made the statement against the Los Angeles Rams, and people thought I was rooting for the Rams. I'm not rooting for the Rams. I'm just telling you, you take successful things from teams who won and lost against you, and you implement that in your game plan. Mm-hmm. And who does it better than Sean McVay? Andy Reid. But there were times in that Los Angeles Rams game that you kind of got the sense a little bit. Are they allowing the Los Angeles Rams to come back? Are they playing what I like to call hang-around football? And that's the thing that, can get the Eagles in trouble. If they have to be that last play team on the offense, do they have the play that they can dial up? We know the Chiefs do, because we've seen it all year, all playoffs, all Super Bowls. We haven't really seen it against the Philadelphia Eagles yet.
Well, the number one thing you have to do, Steve, to beat the Chiefs, and I've heard this from so many teams, in the gotta have it moments, you gotta make the play, and you gotta make sure they don't. Because what you're saying is right. What they do in these gotta have it moments, they make a play. And you mentioned Andy Reid, you mentioned Patrick Mahomes, you mentioned the play calling. I think there's another person in that, and that's the guy we're talking about. In those gotta have it moments, you talk to anybody on that defense, Spags dials the right thing up.
Yes, he does.
He makes the right decision. We saw it again on 4th and 5, and it was the pressure coming with, with Trent McDuffie and Justin Reed. And by the way, these are some guys in the secondary that I just mentioned can blitz really, really well. They come after the quarterback so well as guys from the secondary. And he has this feel. I was talking to George Karlaftis in the locker room afterwards, and he's like, he just always makes the right decision in the right moment. That's the pedigree the Chiefs have. And can he continue to do that in those moments to make that right call? And then the other part is, what was the other gotta have it moment? It's the 4th and 1, and this has been borderline lights out for Josh Allen and company on QB sneaks. Josh Allen is an enormous human being. And what did they do? The linebackers came up, the nose played great, whether it's Mike Purnell or Derek Nottie or whoever it is for the Chiefs, stuffing things up at the point of attack. And then you have Nick Bolton, Leo Chanel, or Drew Tranquil, the linebackers coming up and playing crazy. And I believe we talked about how important those linebackers are to this defense when we were talking about the championship game. Do you think they can stop the tush push?
Oh.
Do you think what I just described? Because nobody would say what they did. I asked everybody in that locker room, so does this work against a tush push? What'd you guys do? We're not telling you what we did. What Spags and the company showed us to stop that.
Listen, all I know is the tush push has been working.
Oh yeah,
it's been hugely successful. It's been duplicated.
Has it?
It has been duplicated. I mean, it's been some bootleg copies out there I've seen.
Nobody is as successful with it as Philadelphia, though.
And my point is, that's where it's going to get interesting. Everything that we can bring up against the Philadelphia Eagles, everything we can bring up against the Kansas City Chiefs, are things that we're not bringing them up to say we think they can lose. We're bringing them up as these are their strengths and these are their weaknesses. And with that all being said, the game is still played in between the white lines. And with these two teams, the way they play, it's either going to blow it wide open and you're going to see the Philadelphia Eagles run away, or it's going to be a nail biter like we've seen. And that's the problem. If it turns into a nail biter that plays in the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs, that doesn't mean it's a guarantee, but now you start to play their type of football. Yeah. And that type of football, with the track record, goes well for Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes.
I agree. So my last point is this. If the Eagles win this Super Bowl, it's going to be because Jalen Hurts makes a play against the blitz. Whether he hits A.J. Brown, whether he hits Smitty, whether he makes an adjustment, and they burn the Chiefs on a blitz or takes off running. Because the man has taken 38 sacks this year. It's 11th in the NFL. There were 58 unblocked pressures that the Chiefs brought this year.
58?
58 unblocked guys coming to bring a pressure. I mean, guys that literally were completely unblocked. at some of the best in the league. So does Jalen Hurts find an answer at the line of scrimmage prior to the snap, or does he find an answer after the snap on some of these blitzes? Because with this offensive line, and as talented as Philly's O-line is, I don't know how much pressure Kansas City is going to get without bringing anybody extra. They have, Steve, the largest discrepancy between pressure when blitzing and pressure when not blitzing. Second largest discrepancy in the NFL. They just don't get pressure when they bring 4. So they're going to have to do it against a really good offensive line. And does Jalen Hurts have those answers? That's going to be, I think, one of the main deciding factors of this game.